Let's start by creating some new drawings. So a new drawing 002, this is going to be foundations. We need another drawing. Floor plan. I know we've already got a floor plan. This needs to be a more detailed floor plan. Remember sheet 01, that was really just a concept. So this is our ground floor plan. We need another one which will be our floor above. So 004, second floor plan. Another new one, this will be our elevations. And we might need more than one sheet for those. We're going to create another new one, 006, this will be our sections. Another new one, we need a roof plan. Roof plan. And so on we go. Now this drawing here, the window and door elevations, that really needs to be at the bottom of the list, so let's just drag that down. We're going to make site plan the active layer, click OK, and there's our site plan. So I'm going to take this floor plan, I'm going to make a copy of it, so Control C or Control V, we can go Control click on there and send it to the correct layer, our foundation layer. Let's go to our foundation layer and see what we've got. So here's our foundation plan, and we want this to be around about 1 to 50. There it is on our page. What do we need to change? Well, this is our foundation, which means we need to see the floor below, not this one. We need to see the one below that. So let's go to our layers. We want to see floor 1. What classes do we need to see? Well, there's a lot of things we won't need to see, like site, all these modifiers and site things. Let's turn all those off. But we do want to see things like we might need to see the stairs if there's some foundations that relate to those, but maybe we don't. And we need to see our foundation objects and our structure and our slabs. So that gives us our floor plan. Let's just go back to our classes. Maybe we want to see our stairs, but maybe we don't want to see them in bold. We might want to see them in grey. Right, click on this. Now let's look at our edit crop, because our crop was cutting off parts of our design. Let's put those back there. Right click, let's edit our annotations. So there's our drawing label. That doesn't want to be drawing number 6, it's drawing number 1. And it's not our first floor plan, but it is our foundation plan. And we need to put some dimensions on. And we might need to differentiate between some of these foundations. But anyway, let's go back to our dimensions. Now, right at the very beginning of our course, we created some dimension standards. Plans, we called it. So now when we click and place that dimension, we should have an accurate dimension using the standard that we like. And now you'll start to notice that the size that you've given things may be okay, but it may look a little strange. So let's just use this, which is our chain dimension. Click, 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 and double click to finish. And we've got 2 dimension along here as well. So click there, So we're going to place a dimension there, 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 and double click there to finish. Get rid of that dimension, and we're going to chain dimension again. So from that corner to there, click there, and double click there. We might want to put a detail, and we have an object here which is a section elevation marker. Going to click there and double click there. So that's our detail. Let's set our marker styles, and this end we're going to have nothing. And this end, let's not have text at both ends, and this end is going to have a reference to a particular viewport. If we had a viewport, we could actually choose the viewport here, and we could link it to a viewport, and it would link to a specific detail drawing. we need a title block. We've put in a title block before, but just let's go over it again. There's our sheet border. Double click. I go to my border settings. I make each of these 1 millimeter or 1/25 of an inch. The scale block factor 0.7 and hide the border, which is just down here. But what I haven't shown you up till now is how to edit that and put your own logo and stuff in it. So let's have a look at our resource manager, because this particular object is a sheet border component. If we right click here and edit our 2D component of that symbol, we've got all this information here. So I can get rid of that line, that circle, that line. I might get rid of all of this because I might not use them. And I can grab all of this information here and just drag it down. I need to leave room for a logo, and we'll just pull that down as well. So there it is. There's my design for my title block. I should be able to import a image. I've got an image on another screen over there. I can drag and drop images into Vectorworks. So there is the image for my title block. I'm going to grab that title block, stick it there, and just stretch it till it matches where I want. So there it is. It's my title block. You can have your own graphic logo, you can put your details up here, and so on. So that will change every title block in this project. Notice that one's changed, and if that line weight's too heavy, you can make it thinner. Let's go to the other sheet that we were looking at, which was 001, and notice my logo's updated here as well. So these two are not showing any of our doors. Let's just check to make sure their sills class is turned on. That one, so that's missing. We don't want to see any of the door ID stuff. So make sure we don't see any of those. There we are, so now we can see our doors. So this is our concept drawing and our site plan, and now we're starting to look at things like our foundation plan. I can copy this viewport, or I can control click or option click on a Macintosh, and then I can send it to the correct layer, the ground floor layer. So there it is there. Same with this one. Let's just copy and paste, or we can go control click and then just send it to the correct layer. And we could have just used copy and paste in place. It would have done just as well. So this is our viewport. You might notice that I often jump into my viewport annotations just by double clicking. The reason for that is that on the dialog box that you will see, you get this opportunity here. Double click displays the dialog, edits the annotations, edits the crop, and so on. So for many projects I set that to edits the annotations, so that whenever I need to go into my viewport, I just double click and I jump inside that viewport and I can edit the annotations for that. This is our first floor plan, so let's just change this and call it first floor plan. We can edit it directly here on the object info palette. This is drawing number 1. Here I accidentally changed the left isometric, so let's change that back to a top plan view. What layers do we want to see? Floor 2. Now you'll notice there are a lot of classes are missing, so you're going to have to turn those classes back on and make them available. Things like the cabinet, the doors, the windows, the shutters, and in some ways the easiest thing to do is to alt click on that, turn everything back on, and then you can start to turn off the bits that you want. So first of all, right click, let's edit our crop object because we want to see our stairs at the bottom there. We also want to see our stairs at this end as well. Exit our crop, and now we look at this and we say, okay, what do we want to show? Maybe on this particular plan we don't want to show our furniture or our cabinetry. If you use the visibility tool, you can highlight parts. That's finding the slab at the moment. That's finding the wall. That's finding the furniture. So I can go click and it'll turn that furniture off. Do we want to see our fixtures? We can turn those off as well. And it would be nice if we could also highlight our spaces. If that doesn't work, just go back to your classes button, find the space object and make that invisible. Let's go back so we can see the entire view. Now all my dimensions are wrong, so let's get rid of all of those dimensions and start again with our dimensioning tool. So now let's start with our dimensioning tool again. There's a keyboard shortcut for this, which is the N for November. And then we can just zoom in here. Now at this point you might start saying, well, when I dimension, I only want to snap to that part of the wall. You might remember we set up something called master snaps. Now the master snaps should allow us to dimension more easily. So when we go to a wall like that, it just jumps to that part of the wall. Let's zoom out so we can see the entire plan. And if I just click like that, and click again, and double click. Let's just zoom in and have a look to see what it dimensions to. So you can see it dimensioned to the outside of my building, or the outside of my wall. So do be careful about doing that. What I use is the Z key to zoom in. So I can snap at that corner, Z key again, or the Z key. Find that point there. If you can't zoom in again. Then click there, Z again, click and Z again, and click in the same point so that you can finish. Z key again, so click there, and just keep clicking and zooming and clicking, and that should give you what you need. If you make a mistake and you zoom where you don't want to, hit the escape key. Zoom in again, so that corner there. If you make a mistake, hit the delete key, then zoom in again, and we want to go to that corner of the block, and 2 clicks to stop. So that one, and double click here. So that's our dimensioning underway. Let's exit our viewport. Now we can create our sections. If we want to use our site with part of our sections, then we're going to have to create our sections on the site plan. If you want to create your section here, you can just create your section here and do it. View, create section viewport. Let's create a section through that stair there. So click there, and we're going to look in that direction, 2 clicks to stop. We've got elevations, there's our sections drawing, that's number 1, and this is our section. What layers do we want to see? We really want to see most of these, that the ceiling, the roof, and the floor, the foundations, but not the site model or the site scan. What do we want to do for our advanced section properties? So we can define the length. We've defined the length, so we can make that limited by the section line length. How far back do we want to see? We can set infinite, or we can set a value for that. And our height range can also be infinite. But it's really here at the attributes where we've got a lot of control. So for example, we can choose to have all of our cross sections merged together. So it'll merge all the structural and the non-structural bits together. Anything that's cut through is shown as solid. You might notice we've got a class attribute for our things that are cut through on our section plane. It's got a very heavy line with a bright red middle to it. We'll change that. We can have objects beyond the section plane use their original class, or we can create a class for them. So I'm going to create a class called Section Style Faded. So Section Style Faded, this is going to be user creation, it's going to be solid, it's going to use a light grey line, it's going to be a thin line, and OK. So it's going to use the Section Style Faded for everything that's beyond the section plane. Click OK, and then when you're ready, click OK, and Vectorworks will then calculate the section. So there's our section. Now we're missing our floor, so just go back to our classes and make sure that our slabs are turned on. Structural slab was missing, so let's turn that on and update. So you can see what I've got, heavy lines with a red fill for everything that's cut through in section, and all the other bits are in this sort of faded color. So why is that section looking like that? If we go back to our classes, here's our section style. This line I think is far too thick, so I'm going to make it 0.5. I'm going to change this and make it a light grey, or I can make it a pattern, which usually looks pretty good. So white in the middle, or black for the foreground and white for the background, and we'll use one of these sort of faded grey styles. And that comes out pretty nicely. Now you notice that I haven't got my ground line running through here because we haven't used this on the site. So that's my section. I can create more sections. I can also create partial sections if I need to. You might notice I'm missing a ceiling which needs to be put in. We haven't got a title block, so if we go back to an earlier drawing, copy that drawing, so copy that title block, so Control C or Command C, let's go back to our sections and we can just go paste, right click paste, there it is there. You might notice that it actually picks up the section's name from here and it picks up the number from there as well. What would be kind of cool is have a quicker way to make our elevations. Now we can make an elevation of a single building, but we can also make elevations of the entire development. So I'm going to create two elevations using two different methods. So let's go back to our floor 1. Let's right click, layer options, show snap modify others, and we want to see the other layers as well. So let's go to our layers. We want to see the ceiling, the roof, the floor, the ceiling, the floor, and that one. So I've got everything that I need to be shown. Under classes, we might want to get rid of a few things like people. They were under site. People. Let's get rid of people. That person's on the wrong class, so let's make sure site and make sure you've chosen people. So I've got the entire building there. Let's create some elevations. View, create multiple viewports. So we don't want a top plan, we want a front, which will be this elevation. Left is that elevation, right is that elevation, and back is the back elevation. Click OK, and it creates a brand new drawing for you, brand new sheet layer, and there's our elevations. And we might want those at 1 to 100 so that they fit on the drawing. We can move those two close together, select them both, and they go up here. Drag that one closer together, select those both, and move those here. And then update them. Let's just select all and update, and those should be my elevations. Now you might notice that the side views don't show very much because of the type of construction that I'm using. That is, it's a block wall or a concrete wall. Let's just scroll down because we might want to look at our classes and make sure that things like our ID tags are not showing up maybe. Our furniture is there. Balustrading is missing. So roof main should be turned on, maybe the fixtures should be turned on. I'm missing some balustrading. Make sure my slabs are all turned on. Interior balustrade, that should also be turned on. And let's update those views again. So there's my balustrading showing up. So that's one way to create your elevations. Let's look at the other way where we use the site model. Let's go back to our site model. Maybe it's easier if we rotate our view. So I'm going to use my rotate plan tool. Zoom in somewhere like here. Use that corner of the building. Z key again, use that corner of the building. So it rotates like that for me. So one of the ways of creating a section viewport is to use our clip cube, but the other way is to use this technique. View, create section viewport, and I want a section viewport right across the front of my building. So let's go from there to there and look down that way. So that's our sections 2. It's going to be 1 to 100. Section properties, limited by section line length, what sort of attributes. Now this time we may not want to do the same settings that we've got previously. So we might want to use the merge cross sections, we might want to do separate cross sections, but let's just leave it the way it is and click OK. So it's calculating the section at the moment. So there it is, and because of the direction that it's been cut through, you can see the landform, and you can also see, there it is there, so there's our elevation, so you can see the land, there's our elevation. So we right click, let's edit the crop, because we want to crop out part of this. So we can use our rectangle tool, and we might want to crop this much. Edit our crop, and there's our elevation. You notice I'm using the faded section style, so the whole building looks faded. One of the things we can do with this, if we look at our background render settings, we're showing our surface hatches. So let's turn that off, and we'll update that view again, and you should notice that all the concrete hatching disappears. We can go back to this, we can go back to our advanced properties, and we can say that we'll be using none for the objects beyond, none for that. Or what we might say is we might leave it in section faded style, which is what we were using. But this time in our section faded style, we're going to say that we want to change the graphic style of that. So let's go back up here to our classes, because we're using a class called section faded style, this one here, and it's got the light grey line. Why don't we change that to a black line and make it slightly heavier? Now there are some classes turned off here, which would be things like the shutters are turned off, the furniture's turned off, our roof is turned off, our slabs are turned off somewhere. The site people, if you want to see the people, you can turn those back on. Make sure your slabs are turned on, and OK, and then update the viewport again. Our interior balustrades are not turned on, so they need to be turned on as well. There they are there. Let's turn those on. Once you've got these the way you like, you can duplicate the section and create a section from the other direction easily enough. So we've got what we want here. Let's just see everything. So maybe we don't want that section anymore. We're going to get rid of it. So that's our elevation. So double click into our annotations. I'm going to make that go there. And in case it's giving me a hard time, I'll just zoom in, because I want it to be in line with that, but about there. And that wants to be elevation number 1. Let's exit our viewport annotation. I'm going to drag a copy down here. I'm holding down the Shift plus the Control key, or it would be the Option key on a Macintosh. And now what I need to do is to tell Vectorworks that this section line will show up on my site plan. So site model. If I don't do that, it's very difficult to change the direction or change the location of that section. Now when you have a look at my site plan, you'll notice that I've got 2 site sections. If I grab hold of one of them, like this one, and I move it, you can see I've got 1 and I've got 2. So let's change the direction of that. Let's reverse its direction, and let's just move it closer. I'm just using my nudge key. So it's holding down the Shift key and using my arrows. And I notice now that my stairs are a bit close to the boundary wall here. It's just going to have to do. Let's go back to our sections and have a look. They haven't updated yet. As soon as I click on that and click on the update button, I'll get updated sections. So there's my updated elevation. You can see this is the back wall. Looks like I've got to do something with my slab here. The last drawing I really want to show you how to create is the roof framing plan. I've got my roof plan here. I need to create some form of plan. Let's go back to our ground floor plan. I'm going to go back to the top plan view because I'd like to create a viewport for the roof. So this viewport for the roof is going to show the roof, and it's going to show framing. So first we'll draw the rectangle, view, create viewport. So this is my roof plan. So roof plan. It's going on to the other one, which is roof plan. It's drawing number 1, and this is my roof plan. Roof plan, what layers do we want to see? Well, by rights we should only need to have one layer, the 3rd floor. But we might have information on the ceiling, so we'll leave that one on as well. What classes do we want? Let's turn them all on, and we'll turn off the classes we don't want later on. What scale? Maybe 1 to 50 is going to be fine, or maybe 1 to 100. We'll just have to put it on the paper and have a look. So that's at 1 to 100. Let's just change our scale and have a look at it. So we're going to go to here and choose 1 to 50. We need to get 2 drawings on here, and our page is just not big enough for 2, so we're going to have to put up with 1 to 100. So that's one plan there. So drag a copy across here, there, and don't forget we need a title block. So we're just going to double click, and that wants to be border settings of 1 millimeter and a scale of 0.7, if you remember. So hide border 0.7. So there's another title block. So on this particular view here, I don't want to see any furniture. In fact, I don't want to see any furniture or fixtures on either of those. So let's go back up to our classes. We'll find our classes. We want to see dimensions. We may not want to see doors, so let's turn all our door information off. We don't want to see furniture. We don't want to see balustrades, probably. Don't want to see millwork. Don't want to see fixtures. Maybe we do. We'll just have to have a look to see whether we like them or not. We'll turn off the sills. We can turn off all the site classes. Site model, site paving, all of those can go. Site people. But we want to see the slab notes. We don't want to see spaces. We want to see the columns, and OK. On this particular drawing here, I don't want to see the slab above. So here where we've got the slab, I don't want to see that, so I'm going to turn that off, which should be my roof main. I appear to have turned off my roof, so I'll just turn that back on. Click on the classes button, find roof main, and turn that back on. So you can see earlier on I created the slab with the drainage. I want to see that now. But on this particular plan, I really want to see my roof structure, which I can't see at the moment. Let's go back to our floor 3. That's our floor there. It's time we sent that to the roof layer, because we're going to do some roof creation. Let's layer options active only. So that's going to be my roof. This roof didn't have any components. Maybe it should have done, so that we could then create the roof slab in a way that would allow us to create roof structure. So let's look at slab styles, and let's look at our 400 slab roof. Let's edit that. What we really need is a new component, and this component needs to be our structure. So we need to make this about 190 millimeters thick. That's the thickness of our joists. Click OK there. This needs to be a lot less. So this is going to be 210, and this is the one that's going to be tapered. So that's tapered, this one's not, and this one is going to be the underside. Now if you wanted to put a ceiling underneath this, we could certainly add components for that. So let's go OK for that, and let's see our roof in 3D. So there it is, the top is tapering, the underside is fixed. When we go back to our plan view, okay, we want to select our slab, and we want to go AEC, and we're going to look for our framing. And we're going to create joists. So we're going to create joists that are based on our structure component. So it's got the elevation, center to center spacing, about 450, 16 inches. We could put these on a class. So we could have a class called structural, maybe joists, ceiling joist, or roof joists, or rafters, something like that. So structural rafters. And do we want the rafters to control the graphic style of things? So maybe they could. So for example, we're going to use a creation. They're going to have a solid fill. They're going to have a slightly thick line around them. And OK. So they're going to go in that class. Let's set our joist properties. So width 45, height 190. They're going to be a solid beam, or we could make them a rafter, but really they're going to look like solid beams. The 2D display is the width. And OK, let's look at our attributes. So we want these to be class style, class thickness. OK. And we don't want to delete the source geometry. If we did, we'd lose our roof. So click OK. So our joists are going to start here, and they're going to go in that direction, and Vectorworks will just create as many joists as it needs. So that's given me my roof framing. These are on a class, structural rafters. So when I go back to have a look at my drawings, let's go back to my roof plan drawings. Here, we want to see that upper layer. So let's have a look here at layers. We want to see the roof. We want to see a class called structural rafters. So now you can see all my rafters. At this point, you might notice that the walls are quite heavy compared to the rafters. So why don't we do something about that? Let's look at our classes. Let's turn off the classes for the plaster. Let's preview that so they look fine like that. Let's look at our classes for the structure. Let's have no fill, so solid white, a thin line, maybe even a light grey line, and then OK. Let's preview that. So what you've got now is this ability to see the rafters above, see the floor below, but to see it in a slightly different line, a slightly different line style. Okay, now I just want to see if I can turn off my stairs, because I don't really want to see my stairs. Let's turn those off. Do we want to see our columns? That'll be fine, I think. We want to see footings? No, just in case they turn up. What other classes do we want to look at? Where's sills? We want sills to be turned off. Anything to do with doors needs to be turned off. Glazing clear, let's make sure that's turned off. Preview it. I don't know if you notice it's slightly different through there. And just make sure everything that we don't need is turned off. So, OK. And so now I can go ahead and create my roof plan and my roof framing plan. So this is actually going to be my roof framing. Roof framing plan. So we've got enough now to start to wrap up. You need to finish your drawings. You need to create plans, detailed sections, just using the cut through the model. We're only going to go through to develop design stage. Cut through the model with our section. Create more elevations if you need, using those section trick that I showed you. If you need to make another section. So these elevations here, they're probably on the wrong layer. So why don't we duplicate those and send them to the right sheet layer. So just up here we can send those to the elevations layer. Just go yes on that and OK. So these should really be sections. So if we go back to our site model and look for number 1, this is number 1 here, maybe that section wants to go through the building, like that. If we hold down the B key, you can see exactly where it's going. Now at this point, I often find it easy to rotate my plan so that I'm working square rather than at an angle. Let's have a look here. So if I hold down the B key, you can see exactly where my section's cutting through. So it's going through that area there. So let's just hold down the Shift key and we'll just nudge it down a little bit. Nudge it across. So it's going to go through the lounge on one of those. It's going to go through there. And if you wanted to, you could use your reshape tool and you could add an extra point to that. So here we could add a point right there. And now that's going through, almost through the stair. So we're going to go back to that mode and we're going to pull that down so it goes right through the stair. So it's going to go through that stair there. So it's going to go through the stair and through the bathroom. And if you want to reverse the direction, then it'll look in the other way. I'm going to move this one. In fact, the easiest way to do this is just to rotate it left 90 degrees. Let's move that up there. Let's just move that handle up there. And we're going to hold down the B key because we want to know where this is going to belong. Probably right through the middle of the room like that will be fine. Looking at the kitchen, or we can reverse the direction and look the other way. So now when we go back to have a look at our sections, here they are, we'll need to update them. We'll also need to edit the crops. So let's update those two and see what we get. And there are my sections. So we can still crop those if you want, but at least now we can see our sections in relation to our landform, which is pretty cool. We've got our elevations on the other layer. So I think it's time to wrap up, because I think now you've got enough to go ahead and build the most fantastic things that you can in Vectorworks Architect. My name's Jonathan Pickup. Thank you very much for attending my course, and I wish you all the best.